G'day everyone, welcome to our project looking at non-wetting management options for the growers in the Albany Port Zone. This is a GRDC invested project with Southern Dirt as the lead, and we'd like to thank both of them for having us as a part of it. This project was aimed to look at what option growers had in the region for combating topsoil non-wetting issues. Over the past few years, with hot summers and very variable season breaks, the issue is becoming more prevalent. Previous methods such as deep ripping with inclusion plates, ploughing or spading in the forest gravels have proven not to be effective and can be quite expensive for farmers. From this, SCF wanted to look at using soil wetters as a mitigation tactic for use in forest gravel soil type at Tenderden. The recent low summer rainfall over the past few growing seasons and the very dry and variable starts has led to a lot of non-wetting soil germination issues. The use of wetting agents can replace conventional methods of managing non-wetting soils, including the mechanical disturbance, such as ploughing, spading and inclusion plates while ripping. There is a range of wetting agents now available in the market for farmers to use, and a range of placements that can achieve, whether it be on the seed, down below the seed, in the seed contact zone or in the top of the furrow. Previous research by Glenn McDonald from DPIRD found that wetting agents will help with crop germination as well as water infiltration later in the season, which can help out in grain filling. This trial aims to determine the best rate and placement of soil wetters such as SC14 for farmers to mitigate non-watering effects and achieve the best possible crop emergence without the mechanical disturbance of the soil. One trial was set up in the 2020 season in a highly non-wetting forest gravel location at Tenderden. This cited a previous history of cropping with barley from the last rotation and had 11 different treatments. The trial site was sown with 2.3 kilos of 44Y90 IT canola using farm scale equipment where possible. However, a temporary 2 metre applicator was used on the seeding bar for any treatments behind the seed boot. Seeding occurred on the 6th of May after 25mm of rainfall the day before, yet the seed was still placed into a dry soil. The treatments applied behind the press wheel were done in 10.3 metre strips in a water rate of 50 litres, while the treatments involving placement behind the seed boot were done in 2 metre strips in a water rate of 100 litres a hectare. The trial site had very high spatial variability, which took into account very varied results. The results from the plant density and yield analysis were used with the spatial analysis to account for the paddock variability over the trial. The ground cover results could not be analysed spatially, however, due to the significant difference from the seed placement in proximity to last year's furrow. The results from the plant density analysis determined that the placement of SC14 into the seed contact zone behind the seed boot were the only treatments to have a significant difference from the untreated control for crop establishment. The increased rate of SC14 in that treatment zone had no significant increase in plant density, indicating that 2 litres a hectare of SC14 in 100 litres of water is sufficient to have a mitigation effect of non-wetting soils. The placement of SC14 directly onto the seed or behind the press wheel resulted in no significantly different plant densities, although the combination behind the seed boot as well as the press wheel did average slightly higher plant densities than the control. However, they were not significant given the site variability. This indicates the application of SC14 behind the press wheel reduce the effect of the SC14 behind the seed boot alone. The plant densities from the BASF treatment also indicated that the product had no difference to SC14 in the placement or the control. The lower plant densities from the high rate directly on the seed can be attributed to the practicality of the treatment. With high rate, the individual seeds are more likely to stick to each other. This can lead to lower overall seeding rate and less than ideal spacings uniformly across the row, and then counted less plants per square metre. To determine if there were multiple germinations, plant density counts were completed at 2 times. The first time was on the 3rd of June, approximately a month after seeding, and the second on the 7th of July, about another month later again. As seen in the first 2 columns of the results, plant density between the 2 times were very similar, and demonstrated that the use of soil wetters did not assist in an earlier germination. The plant establishment effects continued through and supported by the ground cover results that were taken on the 28th of July. On this day, the drone was used to take photos which could be stitched together to create an orthomosaic. From this stage, putting it through computer programs, it could be calculated the pixel value which is about 2 centimetres in size, to determine whether it was a plant or the ground. and from this you could work out the ground cover percentage. The significant different treatments to the control from ground cover results indicate the higher rate of SC14 behind the seed boot and the combination of behind the seed boot and press wheel at 2 litres a hectare. The high rate of SC14 behind the seed boot was only non-significant to the low rate behind the seed boot, which had 20% higher ground cover, but not significantly different to the control due to the side variability. These results supported that 4 litres behind the seed boot is the most effective mitigation strategy. The ground cover results also identified a significant difference between the seed proximity to last year's farrow stubble. The off-row seed placement resulted in a significantly lower ground cover compared to the near row and on-row. On-row placement had the highest ground cover percentage, although it was not significant to the near row. The difference of results from seed proximity to previous season's farrows is consistent with other research and field observations. It also indicates modification to grower seeding equipment with technology such as the Pro Tracker, which placed seed near or on last year's farrow, would be beneficial for the plant figure and growth at the early season. The yields for the trial were analysed first with a simple ANOVA analysis. This returned no significant differences in yield comparing any treatments. When a spatial analysis model was used, significant differences were found, with the untreated control yielding the highest. Grain yield differences in canola are not often found, particularly for soil wetter agents, unless the differences are very significant or driven by nutrition. Once canola plant densities are above a critical level, the plants can easily compensate by increased plant vigour and heads per pot. Previous work has indicated that canola densities as low as 10 plants per square metre can yield at least 2.5 tonne. They also noted that as plant density increased, so did yield significantly. However, as the yield in this trial was highest at 2.14, this indicates that the plant density was not a limiting factor. Each of the 4 treatments that yielded significantly lower than the untreated control had an outlier plot with an extremely low yield. We could not provide any sound reasoning for these plots, with 2 sown on last year's farrow and the other 2 off-row. The most likely explanation is the spatial variation seen over the trial site, and would indicate that no yield penalty would usually result from those treatments otherwise. The key messages from this trial was the placement of soil wetters in the seed contact zone behind the seed boot was the most effective for improving germination and early biomass growth, either at the 2 litres or 4 litres at a hectare rate. It was also found that seeding on or near last year's farrow significantly increased early biomass growth when compared to the off-row. Also, canola plants can compensate for low plant densities, and significant differences in yields are often hard to detect from soil wetter trials. There is also high variability in expression of water repellents across paddocks and soil types, along with response to soil wetters, so farmers will need to trial to determine what best works for them.